Well, Stanley Allen Matlick, known to all as Stan, a man who continued his family's fight for water in the Eastern Sierra, has died. Mr. Matlick passed away Thursday at Renown Regional Medical Center in Reno after a brief illness. He lived 81 wonderful years, said his daughter Margaret. A funeral service for Mr. Matlick is set for Thursday, May 30th, 11 a.m. at the First United Methodist Church in Bishop. Mr. Matlick was born August 21st, 1931 in Bishop, at home on the family ranch to Edwin and Ella Matlick. He spent his childhood years helping his parents on the Matlick Ranch and played a big part in creating Bishop history. Mr. Matlick graduated from Bishop Union High School in 1949, and he continued his education at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo until he was drafted into the Army in 1952. Stan was a company clerk in the Korean War, serving 2 years of active duty and then 6 years in reserves. Stan continued his college education and graduated in 1955. Stan had met Roberta Rogers while he was in high school and when she came to Bishop to start her teaching career. Stan and Roberta were married in 1955 and lived together for 56 years until Roberta's passing in 2012. Mr. Matlick was a very active member of the Bishop community, including 4-H, VFW, Bishop Homecoming and Labor Day Association, Laws Railroad Museum, the Eastern Sierra Community Service District, and the Bishop Lions Club, receiving many awards along the way. Sierra Wave Media's Bennett Kessler said of Mr. Matlick, "It was his family that won the Hillside Decree, which kept the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power from pumping water for export from Bishop. He unstintingly stood up against DWP's harm to the valley, fearlessly returning to court to defend the Hillside Decree. He steadfastly spoke out against the long-term water agreement, and he famously said, 'It won't be worth the paper it was written on.' Words that ring true today as Inyo suffers with nearly unworkable procedures in that agreement." And again, that was from Bennett Kessler. Stan Matlick checked the pumps as recently as December and January on Bishop Cone and told the Inyo Water Department, Inyo Water Commission, and Sierra Wave Media that the 3 wells were pumping steadily in the Bishop area in December and January. Matlick said he believed there weren't enough uses on the Bishop Cone for all that water. He said he believes some of it went down the aqueduct where it's not supposed to go. Water Director Bob Harrington said that his department checked with DWP officials who indicated they needed the pumped water for stock water and for Buckley Pond. In January, Harrington said it appeared there were not enough uses going on to justify the amount DWP was pumping. Harrington said Inyo requested that they turn off some pumps, and he said DWP told his department they would shut off 1 or more, and Stan Matlick initiated that move by the DWP. Stan and Roberta were honored earlier this year by the Bishop City Council. Stan and daughter Margaret attended the meeting. Councilwoman Susan Cullen read a statement about the Matlicks and why the council chose them for the Quarterly Citizen Award. Bennett Kessler, in previous articles on the Matlicks, noted that it was Stan's father and family back in the 1930s who went to court and won the Hillside Decree. That's an historic court order that prevents the LADWP from pumping water for export in a wide area in and around Bishop and nearly down to Big Pine. The DWP tried to defeat that order in the 1980s, but Stan Matlick fought back. He personally stood up to Los Angeles and funded the legal battle to protect Bishop. It is the only area of the Owens Valley with these protections. Even when it wasn't popular, Stan Matlick stood up at scores of meetings over the years on behalf of the Owens Valley environment. His famous quote years ago still haunts Inyo County today. When citizens fought against the Inyo DWP long-term water agreement, Matlick said, "You will find this agreement isn't worth the paper it's written on." There were many others in the area who privately commented on how the Matlicks had supported them in a time of need, changing the course of their lives for the better. Stan Matlick loved the outdoors. He enjoyed fishing, camping, and hiking. He worked for several pack stations in the area, taking pack trips as the cook. Mr. Matlick is survived by his son Bob and wife Diane, daughter Margaret, grandson Kyle, and wife Rebecca, and step-grandsons Jacob and Zachary James. Again, funeral services Thursday, May 30th, 11 a.m. at First United Methodist Church. Interment will follow at West Line Street Cemetery with the VFW officiating. The family requests, in lieu of flowers, donations be made to the Laws Museum, the Friendship Center at the Methodist Church, or the Owens Valley Water Committee in the memory of Stan Matlick. We thank the Matlick family for those photos. Well, a 24-year-old Bishop man, Eric Carl Brooks, was arrested early Sunday morning after a disturbance on Main Street in Bishop that has left a victim with major injuries. Now, information from a press release from the Bishop Police Department states that on Sunday, May 19th at 1:59 a.m., the Bishop Police Department responded to 562 North Main Street for a male subject possibly intoxicated and attempting to gain entry into multiple occupied vehicles parked in the drive-through line at McDonald's. When officers arrived on scene, they saw a male subject lying motionless on his back near the drive-through. The press release states that officers checked him and immediately requested Simon's ambulance to respond. Officers contacted many witnesses and were able to determine the unknown unconscious male on the ground was attempting to get into many vehicles in the drive-through line. It is unclear, according to the press release, why the victim was attempting to gain access into the vehicles. Now, according to witnesses, the victim got involved in an argument with two other males in a blue sedan, and then a physical fight occurred where the victim was pushed to the ground, knocked unconscious, and then kicked in the head. The two male suspects, according to the press release, took off running westbound on East Elm from McDonald's after the manager had called the police. Officers obtained detailed information of the suspects from witnesses and were able to get the name of a possible suspect and responded to a known residence. Officers made contact with Eric Carl Brooks and arrested him for the battery and with great bodily harm, as well as violation of misdemeanor probation. Brooks was later transported to the Inyo County Jail and is currently being held on $30,000 bail. The other male subject, according to the press release, is not being charged with anything at this time. The victim, however, is currently at Loma Linda Hospital with major injuries, and no further information will be provided at this time regarding the victim, according to that press release. Anyone with any further information pertaining to this case should contact the Bishop Police Department at 760-873-5866. Well, Mammoth Lakes Town Manager Mariana Marashiva Martinez issued a press release last week of highlights of recent noteworthy items from the previous couple of weeks. That press release states that at the May 15th Town Council meeting during the 5 p.m. portion, discussion of the fiscal year 2013-2014 baseline budget continued. Martinez said the town is still financially challenged, and this will not improve until new or additional revenues will start flowing in. In addition, it is very important to note, says the press release, that the town is significantly underfunding capital needs, including roads and buildings. Neither the town nor the private sector have done an adequate job in this area, Martinez said. Now, the physical results will continue to be visible, according to the press release. The solution, from town staff's perspective, is to cut services to invest more in infrastructure, raise dedicated revenues for infrastructure, cut marketing, and invest more in infrastructure, or a combination of all of those options. Now, Martinez also wrote that in addition to a financial crisis that Mammoth is barely avoiding, there is now a human crisis. The town staff is simply burned out, Martinez said, overwhelmed by the workload that is the same as it was before these significant staffing cuts, and demoralized as a result. Town management will be making a recommendation on how to manage this crisis during the June 5th Town Council meeting. You can see our website, sierrawave.net, for that entire press release. We'll be back with more news.